Hello to all the adventurers out there. Get ready for a magical journey. Today, we have a literary legend in the house. He's a modern myth maker, blending ancient tales with humor in epic adventures. And guess what? His Percy Jackson beloved character is back. Oh, yeah. We have a new Percy Jackson book after 14 years. Let us give a thunderous welcome to Rick Riordan. How's it going, Rick?
Hey, George, it's great to be here. I love the shirt, and a special shout out to everybody watching, and happy Teachers' Day to all the educators out there. As a former classroom teacher, I see you and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Rick. And yeah, two times over. Happy Teacher Day. This is incredible to have this moment with you as a former educator and now to talk about your new book. Rick, I was telling people in the pre-roll, I remember reading your book like 10 plus years ago and all that you unpacked for me in the whole new world of Greek mythology and how it ignited this like curiosity for me as well as our audience to quest to learn more about this incredible realm.
That's amazing to hear. I'm so glad to hear that you're one of us demigods and you enjoyed the books. And it's great to know that there are still generations of kids having the same experience and growing up and loving the books.
Totally. So I guess to start, I'd love to ask, like, how does it feel to revisit the world of Percy Jackson? Like, what inspired you to get back in and continue the series?
Right. Well, it has been a minute, as you said. I think the main thing is that while we were starting to work on a possible TV show of Percy Jackson, the book was kind of a byproduct of that. I was talking to the Disney studios and saying that if they were interested and willing to give the adaptation a chance, maybe I could do something that the fans have been asking me to do for a long time and write a new book from Percy Jackson's perspective. Turns out I didn't need to do that. They were happy to do the TV show anyway, but I figured, well, now I got the idea, so I might as well do this as a thank you to fans.
I love it. I love that, like, the fans asking and you delivered. So we're really, really excited that this new book is out. And we're going to touch on that TV series in just a sec. But just to go back up, can you give us a brief overview of the plot of the new Percy Jackson book?
Right. So Percy Jackson has saved the world. I don't even know how many times now. So I had to figure out, okay, what does he do for an encore? And this time, rather than saving the world, he's doing something that's almost as tough. He's trying to get into college. So he's got to get a recommendation letter from a god in order to put his application in. So Ganymede, the cupbearer of the gods, comes to Percy and says, just so happens my cup is missing. This is bad because if anyone who is mortal drinks from it, they will instantly become a god. You need to find this cup before Zeus figures out I've lost it.
I love how you are able to incorporate these like very important themes, like, friendship, identity, belonging, getting into college. I'm curious, like, why is that so important to you? Like, why is it critical a part of like the series to have that element in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really important to know that these myths are still resonating today because they can be applied to the modern world just as easily as they can to ancient Greece. I mean, these myths talk about things that everyone deals with. Maybe the ancient Greeks didn't have to worry about college tuition. I don't know, but it's certainly something I can imagine Percy Jackson having to deal with. Getting recommendation letters from the gods, it just seemed funny to me.
Yeah, and it seems like such like a tightrope, right? To try and incorporate these themes and keep it fun for readers and allow them to connect. Like, what's your process there? Like, any tips for like aspiring storytellers that are trying to do something similar?
Sure. I mean, for me, it really is to try to find the things that are universal, the things that I can relate to, and to take the ancient stories and figure out if they were happening today, what would that look like? I mean, I had no trouble believing that Ares, the god of war, would be riding a motorcycle around the West, and it just seemed like something he would do, or Zeus would be hanging out in a pinstripe suit in New York City. These things just made sense to me. And Percy is a kid like all kids. He's not only a demigod, but he's got problems like how to go to college with his girlfriend and keep things going and get good grades and all the normal stuff.
Yeah, especially. I mean, I love that too. Like, I remember it's like so many layers to it. Like, first you're reading it and you're visualizing it, and then you're also reading it and connecting with it because Percy Jackson is in this modern era world. It's not like it's in Greece. It's like in the area that we all live in with cell phones and, like you said, assignments, schoolwork, and whatnot. And so it's cool now that the Percy Jackson series is being adapted into a TV series. I'll have to talk about that. How involved are you in that adaptation process? Like, what are your thoughts on seeing these books come to life on the big screen? Just love to learn more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were involved. In fact, the adaptation, when I say we, I'm talking about my wife, Becky, and I, because we always work together to make these things happen. It was our idea to do the adaptation. I went to the studios and I said, look, we need an adaptation that has a little more time to develop the story and be faithful to it. And in my mind, that means a TV series. It means one season where we have the action of the lightning thief and we have enough episodes to cover the entire story. We are executive producers on the show. I have seen every script. I have read it. I've been in every writer's room. We were involved in the casting, so these casting choices are my choices. They are amazing. They're going to do a great job. And we were there during filming for most of it. So yes, we've been involved in everything. And having seen all the episodes of the season so far, I think you're going to love it.
I know we are too. I cannot wait. And also, it's just thrilling, I know, for myself and the audience to see that you and Becky, shout out Becky, to be at the helm of all this, like to be able to know like the vision is being executed to like how you wrote it. Now that you've kind of been, both writing the book and now in a little bit like getting your feet wet in the TV and movies, like any tips for writing for one or the other?
Wow. Well, I would just say that they're very different. I didn't know much about script writing, but I have learned a lot over the last, has it been 3 years that we've been working on this? Yeah, I think it has. I mean, but the main advice I would give is pretty much the same, no matter whether you want to write a short story or a book or learn how to write a screenplay. It would be whatever you want to write, read a lot of that kind of writing and learn what makes it good. What do you like when you read one of these things? What works for you and what doesn't? And how did the writer do that? The more you read, the more you will find that you are able to write. So just keep at it. That's the other thing. Don't give up. One thing that all writers have in common that got published, they didn't give up.
I love that. Yes, it's almost like get immersed and keep pushing forward. Just like keep on taking those step by steps to make that progress. I love that. I also have to ask, any hints or teasers about any upcoming projects or ideas that you have in the works after the Percy Jackson series?
Well, we're working on a lot of different adaptations. We're working on a feature film adaptation of my standalone novel, The Daughter of the Deep, that hopefully will be a movie on Disney Plus. We're working with Netflix to do a film adaptation of the Kane Chronicles on Egyptian mythology. I don't know if all of these will happen or not. I mean, they're all in various stages of production, but we are moving them forward. And I'm sure there's going to be other projects down the line, but those are on the kind of the front burner right now.
Oh my goodness, you got me so giddy right now, Rick. Like thinking about all the different things that are going to be like, just transpired into like the big screen, and just to think about the projects that you're going to be working on hands-on as well. I hope we didn't get you in trouble by you sharing that. I don't know if that's a spoiler
No,
or a
that's
teaser. Okay,
totally fine.
good. I'm excited to see all these challenges for these new characters that we come to love. And we thought it'd be fun because you penned all these countless adventures. We create a little challenge for you that we call Crunch Time. It's like an author edition. So the idea is in 1 minute, we're going to have some sentences that come on screen and you're going to answer it as fast as you can in that 60 seconds. How's that sound?
All right. I'm game.
All right. Let's start Crunch Time, author edition.
Okay, my favorite place to write is, well, you're looking at it. This is my home office. My favorite subjects at school were, it kind of depends on the teacher and it depends on what year we're talking about. I guess English and social studies most of the time, and lunch. If I wasn't an author, I would be, that's easy. I'd be a classroom teacher like I used to be. I love being a teacher. I have my best ideas probably when I'm taking the dog for a walk. My mind just relaxes. I draw inspiration from, well, obviously Greek mythology, but also places that we've visited as a family. Oh, my favorite book of all time. Yikes. I have so many, but I guess I'd have to say the Lord of the Rings series, because that's what kind of turned me into a reader. My favorite snack when writing. Well, I have crumbs all over my keyboard as we speak. Probably goldfish crackers. Yeah, that's kind of a weakness of mine. My secret talent is, I guess, learning not to stop on a first draft. I had to learn that one the hard way, but just keep going. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Oh, two people I admire are, well, I mentioned my wife, Becky. I have to shout out to her because she keeps me going, and she's my biggest coach, my biggest fan. Another person that I admire a lot would be my 8th grade English teacher, Mrs. Pabst, who started me on the career of becoming a writer. If I was a character in the Percy Jackson world, I'd probably want to be a rock, like sitting in the corner, because in Percy Jackson's world, that's like the only safe thing.
Rick, you did it! You completed Crunch Time in record time.
Amazing!
Thank you so much. So cool. And I shout out Becky and shout out your I think you said first grade teacher?
Oh, 8th grade teacher.
8th grade teacher. Like, just to know, like, both those people are so influential, and what we read today is so big. So thanks so much. And I'm curious, like, I just feel like The Rock has like some sort of like, symbolism later on, or if it is purely safety, I totally understand that as well. But I'll try not to read in too much of those answers.
Okay, cool.
Also, we see some amazing questions coming in through the chat, and we're going to get to those in just a moment. But before we do, we're going to take my favorite moment of the show, the selfie. So everyone out there, get your cameras ready, gather in front of your screens, hop out of your seat or beanbag, wherever you are, classroom, at home, wherever you're watching from. We're going to give you a few seconds to get set up to take a selfie with Rick. But in the meantime, let's cue some music. All right, I think we're ready, Rick. Count us down, starting with 3.
Okay, ready, everybody? 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much, Rick. I got my selfie. I can't wait to see everyone else's. So please post them on social and tag us, Microsoft Flip, Rick, and Disney Books. We cannot wait to see all those amazing selfies. Rick, thank you again for that time, that moment. That's my favorite part. I will cherish that.
Can't wait to see them.
Awesome. All right. Now, Rick, it is time for some questions.
Okay.
The Disney Hyperion team has actually put together a flip group where we received some video questions from students all over the world. And so we picked out a few that we want to play for you, asking those questions. So let's roll the first question coming in from Kansas.
Hi, Mr. Rick. This is Raylan from Kansas, USA, and I wanted to know if you could go on a quest with Percy Jackson and his friends, what kind of adventure it would be. Thanks.
All right, Raylan, I love the Apollo shirt. All right, I know your cabin. My favorite adventure with Percy, I would want to go on a dangerous quest to find the best, tastiest cheeseburgers in the entire city. That's a quest I could get behind.
I like that. I like that little, like, it's almost like a side quest, find the perfect cheeseburger. I feel like that's an ongoing mission always.
Totally.
Also love that shirt too. I'm originally from Kansas, so we're on the same wavelength, wearing our Camp Half-Blood shirts. All right. Our next question is coming in from Washington.
Have you ever had moments when you felt stuck in writing? And what did you do to get writing again?
Great question about writer's block and getting stuck. Absolutely. Every writer I know, myself included, has had moments of getting stuck, and that's normal. That's just part of the process, actually. It's not it's not anything that's wrong with your writing. It's because you are writing. Writing is hard. So if you get stuck, there's a couple of things that I like to do. First of all, plan out what you're going to do beforehand. It doesn't have to be really complicated, but just like a general roadmap. And then just keep at it. Even if you think it's bad, I always think my first drafts are bad. Doesn't matter. Just write it down. You can revise it later. And the second thing is, if you really get stuck, that's okay. Get up, walk around, do something else, and come back to it.
I love that advice, Rick. Especially, it just seems like, the two parts I always feel like too, I resonate with that question, is that getting started, like where to start with the writing, but then also hitting that writer's block. So those are definitely some tips I think I'll take into practice as well as all these different audience members when they're writing. So thanks again for that answer.
Awesome.
All right. Our next question is coming in from India. Let's hear it.
Mr. Rick, my name is Siddhi Mittal and I am from India. How can someone like me create my own fantastical world? Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, absolutely. Anybody can create a fantasy world of their own. I guess my best advice would be read a lot again and, watch the fantasy shows that you like and read mythology, read whatever you can get your hands on so you can kind of decide, what does your fantasy world look like? If you read widely and you look at what other people have done in the past, it might help you generate some ideas of your own. And the other thing is just practice, practice, practice. I have stories that are fantasy worlds that go back to when I was 12 years old. Are they any good? No, not really. But it was important for me to do those first and practice so I could get to the point where eventually I could create something like Percy Jackson. So keep at it.
I love that. And Rick, I think about it all the time is like the new generation of writers to come, that like yourself, you said you read Lord of the Rings and that's how kind of Percy Jackson was the longest journey. But like to see the writers of this generation that read Percy Jackson and what fantastical world comes in next is just so exciting. And I just can't wait to see how they immerse themselves in these books now that they're reading to then, shape this new world. So love that question. Such a great question.
Absolutely. Me too.
All right. Our last video question is coming from Jade in New Orleans. Let's roll it.
My name is Jade and I live in New Orleans. I love the Percy Jackson books and I can't wait for the new TV series. Can you share any funny moments on set or with the cast?
Hey, Jade, I love that stack of books. That tells me you are, in fact, a really big fan. That's awesome. Yeah, we had so many fun moments. Some I'm not sure I can share, but some, yeah. I remember one day we were filming. It was a really long day. And for whatever reason, there was this enormous roll of plastic bubble wrap, the kind with little poppy bubbles in it. And the kids on set, including Walker, our Percy Jackson, were playing with it. And Walker, I guess he was bored or something, he wrapped himself up in the bubble wrap, and he was rolling around on this terrace as he was waiting to go on screen for the next shot. So I have some great footage. Maybe I'll blackmail him with that someday.
I love that. I love getting that kind of behind the scenes and also something I feel like I would also love doing before going on shoot. So very relatable with the characters. I love that question, Jade, and I love kind of the demigod training right now already with lifting all those books. That's really well done.
Totally.
All right, Rick, thanks again for answering those questions. That was a blast. And we have a chat that is bursting with excitement with some more questions. So I'm going to funnel through some and ask some right now that are live. This one is from Mrs. Mary's class in Quebec. They would like to know if there was ever a character you struggled to write or create and how you got through those writing difficulties. Oh, good question.
Ooh, that's great. A lot of characters are difficult to write. Honestly, it's interesting. Sometimes the villains are easier to write than the heroes. I don't know why that is. I think villains are really interesting and they're fascinating. Obviously they're not good, but they are really, really fun to create. Heroes, on the other hand, are a little bit tougher. Like, what makes somebody be a hero? What does that look like? What's their motivation? Jason comes to mind as somebody who was at first really hard to kind of get my mind around. Or when I'm writing some of the historical ones, like like Hercules or Perseus. They seem so, I don't know, they seem so heroic. I guess it's just hard for me to make them seem like they're real people with normal motivations. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'll have to think more about that, though.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always like kind of like the both sides of it, right? You have the villain, you have the hero, and how they like kind of are completing each other in a way for like stories. So that's a great question. I think it is like so creative, the creative process to really kind of tie and tether them. But I love that answer. Oh, we have a shout out to Pontiac Junior High in Fairview Heights, Illinois. They're big fans. They are asking, how long does it take for a book to get accepted by a publisher? Good question.
It depends. I mean, it depends on whether it's your first book or whether it's your 30th book or whatever it is. And if you already have a relationship with a publisher or you're just trying to get published, let's say it's your first book, and I'll just take that as an example. Once you finish your manuscript, your whole book is done, and that's really important. You have to finish it first. Nobody's going to talk to you until you got a finished product. Then typically you'd send it to an agent and see if you can get them to represent you. Most publishers, they will not look at a book if it just comes from the author themselves. They got to have somebody else, an agent, who says, hey, this one's really good, you got to look at this. So getting an agent, that could take anywhere from a month to 12 months. I mean, it just depends. Agents are really busy. And then from that point, once an agent says, yeah, I love this, I want to represent you, they start sending it to editors, and that could take easily another year. Maybe not that much, but it takes a long time. And expect rejection notes. I have dozens and dozens from my first book. It happens. Don't worry about it. Just keep sending it out until you find the right person who really believes in your work.
Yeah, it's intriguing to know about the process involved, like with an agent, but then also the cycles it goes through editing and notes. Finally, to see like it on a shelf in like a store. That's really cool. That's a really cool background, and just to get an understanding of like it does take time, but that's normal, and that's really to get to the best end result, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It took about 3 years for me personally with my first, not The Lightning Thief. This was a book I wrote years before that. From the time that I finished writing it to the time it was actually published and put in bookstores, the timeline was about 3 years, and that's not unnormal. That's about right.
Good to know, so everyone knows that. Like just keep pushing through. Again, like we've been hearing all throughout the event, just keep pushing through and push those borders. So thank you again, Rick. We have many schools asking kind of the same question. There are other mythologies, Aztec, Chinese. Have you ever thought about writing about any of those?
It's a great question, and it's a question I get a lot. In fact, I got that question so much that I started thinking, why am I hesitant about writing those other mythologies? And it occurred to me that it's because I didn't grow up with them. That's not part of my background, not part of my childhood, the way like Greek and Roman and Norse and even Egyptian was. I grew up with those mythologies. So at some point I talked to my editor about this, and I said, wouldn't it be better if we could form an imprint, Rick Riordan Presents, and instead of me writing about Chinese mythology, find a great writer who's actually Chinese or Chinese American who did grow up with those mythologies. Let them write the story they want to tell, and I'll just be sort of the advisor, the cheerleader, and I can say about these books, I didn't write this, I didn't tell them what to write, but if you like Percy Jackson, I'm pretty sure you're going to love this book too. And that's what we did. Rick Riordan Presents now has books from different authors on Chinese mythology, Aztec mythology, West African mythology, Hmong mythology. I mean, it just goes on and on. So many great books. So if you haven't checked those out yet, please do.
I love that. I love like this almost like this community you built to bring in these new authors and new voices to be able to write these books. And really, like you said, like they grew up with it, they were nurtured with it, and they can give that background and relatability to it, because there's lots of readers out there that also connect the same way they did. And not only to have you as an advisor, like that's the coolest part, to be able to riff with you and like figure out like, oh, what do you think about this? And like, oh man, I can't imagine that workshop. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, it's like a family. I mean, so many great authors, and they all do their own thing, but it's all wonderful.
Love it. I think we have time for one more question, and this is coming from Mr. Justin's class, is wondering, whose character arc in all of Percy Jackson are you most proud of? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I think the character arc that I'm most proud of is Apollo's, in the trial of Apollo, because he goes down to Earth, he's punished. Apollo the god becomes this powerless mortal teenager. And at first, he is such a diva. He is such a whiner. And I just, nobody likes him at the beginning, including me. He's like, oh, I want to be a god again. Why do I have to be mortal? But then over the course of 5 books, he learns what it is to be human. He suffers losses. He has tragedies happen. He sees how heroes respond to it. And he starts to understand, oh, it's not all about me. I have to be a hero too if I want to get out of this situation. And so by the end of the 5 books, I was really, really starting to like him. And that's not easy when you're talking about a god.
I totally agree. I would double down on that. Like, I love character arcs and everything, whether it be in books or film or series. It's like, it's kind of easy. I feel like, I'm not saying that lightly, like to create like this person that's so dislikable. Like, you don't want to care for them. Like, you just really want to put them aside. But then over time, you're like, you can really understand like what they're going through. And then even like 1% of like liking them is so powerful. So I totally understand. I totally would agree. Like that is a very powerful arc in the story. Percy Jackson. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Cool. I think we are close to wrapping up today's show. And before we say goodbye, I would love to ask, do you have anything special you would like to tell everyone that's watching today?
Wow. I mean, whatever your dream is, just know that you can make it happen. I mean, for me, that was writing books, and it took a long time, but I finally got there. And now, I can't believe I'm lucky enough to have the job where I get to write stories for all of you. And, that's actually my job. I love that. So whatever you want to do, keep at it. Don't give up and be patient. Sometimes it takes a long time, but you can make it happen.
I love that. It's like, follow your passion, make it a reality, make it your job, make it your day-to-day. Thank you so much. A big mythic thank you to you, Rick. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for inspiring us all, sharing your literary magic and tips with everyone watching.
My pleasure. Thanks, George, and thanks to everybody who watched.
Hope to see you soon. That was amazing. If you haven't read Percy Jackson yet, make sure to grab your copy today. It has and always will be one of my favorite book series ever, and this new one is incredible. And now, the learning and inspiration is not over. Head on over to flip.com/Rick Riordan so your students can reflect on everything they learned in today's live event. Also, make sure you check out the Percy Jackson Flip activity, Create Your Own Demigod. Share your demigod with us in that Flip group and interact with Rick Riordan. And even though we are wrapping up today, we have more amazing events coming up. On October 11th, your class will take a virtual field trip to the Intrepid Museum in New York. And then on October 19th, get ready to meet the incredible Lily Singh to talk about mindfulness and do a meditation activity with a Headspace meditation teacher, and even watch an episode of The Mindful Adventures of Unicorn Island, a new animated series. And finally, we have a very spooky, scary treat for you. Max Brailer is going to be joining us for a very spooky, scary show on October 31st. That's right, Halloween at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's it for today. I'm your host, George Malukian. Thank you to everyone that joined us. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Disney. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, everyone. I had a blast, and we'll see you next time.